All right. Well, good day, everyone. Welcome to the Barton webinar. We are just getting started. It's myself, Cheryl, and Dr. Saunders today, and we have a great topic that apparently I missed last week, but all of you are excited to discuss fasting. And boy, do we have a lot to discuss. So I have notes from last week, questions to ask Dr. Saunders, but we also want to hear from you. So as you guys are getting on, you know the routine. Give us a shout out in the chat. We'd love to know who you are, where you're from. And then when you have a question, because I know you will, please put it in the Q&A. I'll give it everybody a second to join, and then I'll share some slides on those directions and everything. So how are you today, Dr. Saunders?
I'm doing great. It's a good day. I fasted yesterday.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's, well, so uh, Dr. Saunders usually fasts the beginning of the first weekend of the beginning of the month, but yesterday
yeah.
wasn't the
I
beginning
did.
of the month.
No,
What's,
no, I did that the first weekend of the month. But okay, so here's something else. You ever heard starve a cold, feed a fever?
yes, I
Um,
have.
so I started getting a tickle in my throat yesterday, and I thought, okay, so all I did is I took vitamin D, 50,000 units, and then I took a teaspoon of cod liver oil and a bunch of turmeric, and that's all I had yesterday. And so from Monday afternoon I ate, and then I didn't eat again until this morning. And it went away. Well, sort of. I still have a little tickle sometimes, but it's mostly gone.
Okay, if you guys have ever tried this, feed a cold, starve a fever,
No,
I
no,
would,
the other way around.
no, wait, starve a cold, feed a fever?
Yeah, that's what they always say. And so, you know what? Starving a cold does work, I gotta say.
Let us know in the chat if you've experienced this. And I see a wonderful friend in the chat. Jody says, hello, everyone, listening while driving to Florida. Excited to hear more about fasting. So glad you're here, Jody. I'm gonna share Jody's slides, but I don't do it quite as well as Jody. So please bear with me as we get started. Let's see. I think I need to do one other thing. All right. All right. I hope you all can see that.
There they
We
are.
are,
Yeah.
yeah, welcome to the webinar. This is our disclaimer. This webinar is being available for information and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard here, but apply what you've heard here because this is the good stuff. All right. If you're here, you probably have a question. And let me tell you what, Dr. Saunders loves taking your questions. It makes the webinar. So we are glad. If you have any type of question related to fasting or another, you all decided today was going to be about fasting. So maybe you all decide what next week is about. But submit a question in the Q&A. If you have a topic idea, put it in the chat. We're putting together a calendar of what this might look like in the next few months. So give us a shout out if you have any ideas. But to submit a question, if you see here, there's a Q&A box. Put it there. If you're on your phone, it's also down at the bottom. And also, if you have had any positive experience from this webinar, from our supplements, from our solution kits, please email us. We would really love to hear. It's a motivation for all of us who work that we are helping people. That is one of our core goals. So we love hearing about it, and please share. All right. Now, let's get on with business. We have a few types of, oh, let me just see who else is in the chat. I didn't want to overlook anybody. I recognize Sib from beautiful Tampa Bay, Edgar from Florida, Stephen from Amsterdam. Wonderful. All right, we're going to talk about fasting today. So, Dr. Saunders, there are many types of fasting. Probably the one that people have heard about the most is called intermittent fasting. So, what do we need to know about intermittent fasting?
Okay. Intermittent fasting. All of it's intermittent, but the term intermittent fasting has interesting connotations. And it's the common one because it's the easy one. And so people say, well, I don't eat after 6, so the 6-10 reset, right? I don't eat after 6, and I don't eat till, 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's a 14-hour fast. So that they call that a fast. And yes, it is, because when you eat breakfast, you are breaking the fast. It's breakfast. So fasting means your stomach is empty. Anytime you have an empty stomach, it is good for you. Why? Because when your stomach is empty, you start repairing. So if you wanted to go to get your car fixed, right? Man, I needed some spark plugs on my car. And but I need my car too. So I went to the car repair place and I said, okay, I need some new spark plugs, but I want you to fix it while I'm driving to work. Can you do that? And he's like, absolutely not. You have to leave it here, cool the engine down, and then I can work on your car. I'm like, man, that's annoying. That I need my car and I can't just leave it here at the shop. I have places to go and things to do. Um, that's kind of like what your body is, right? Your body is saying, I need food, I need to go, I need there's no stop mechanism, no hold and wait. But when you stop and relax and stop eating and your stomach is empty, then your body starts repairing. And by repairing, I don't mean just the broken things, it's everything. All the cleansing. People go, like I did a cleanse last month. What is that? Well, I drank this stuff every day. Well, were you eating? Yeah. So how is that a cleanse? What are you cleaning out when you do that? Nothing, because you're putting junk into your body the whole time. So your liver, we don't think about it, but there are hundreds, thousands of toxins that are contained in our food all the time. We think of lectins. If you were to eat one handful of raw red beans, you would die. If you would eat just one castor bean, you would die. So it's not like there's a lot of toxins and stuff. Your liver has to clean out all the toxins, has to detox everything. When you take Tylenol, you don't know it, but Tylenol it's extremely toxic. It will kill your liver. Except that you have something called glutathione that detoxes it really quickly. So your liver's got to work on this. And people who are popping pills all day long, especially Tylenol for pain, they can overwhelm or overcome their detox mechanism and actually kill their liver and end up with a liver transplant. And I've seen that. So the idea that you can detox while you're eating is the same idea that you can get your car fixed while you're driving it. It's not going to happen. They're not going to change your tire. You know what? There was a car that was developed in the 1950s that they could change the tire while it was driving.
All right, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, look that up. That's a real thing. I remember reading that. That was so weird. It had a washing machine in it and everything. It was just a regular like Cadillac or something. Anyway, so intermittent fasting is really good for you for that 12 hours. And that's important to have your stomach empty because that's when you want to be in the anabolic metabolism. And that's a good thing. So that's what intermittent fasting is like a daily thing. Every day I have a 14-hour fast, 18-hour fast, whatever. But I eat every day, but I
Mhm.
have, a large portion of the day, maybe more than half the day is fasting.
Okay, so in your clinical experience, though, is there a difference between a 16-8 window, so fasting for 16 hours, eating for 8 hours? Is there a difference from when you start, let's say, at 8 a.m. versus starting at 2 p.m.? And does this affect your
Yes.
master clock?
Yes, there is a difference. Actually, there's kind of a lot of research. If you read the Circadian Code by Sachin Panda, he explains why the genes turn on in the morning. That's when your cortisol goes up. That's when you're
Mhm.
waking up, all your wake up hormones, all of the liver enzymes. These genes are being turned on. It's just so amazing. And we think everything is on all the time. No, there's switches. It's on, it's off. So, remember the GLP-1 injections
Mhm.
that are falling out of favor now that they're finding out they're bad.
Yes.
Um, um, so that what they do is there's a switch. GLP-1 is a switch. It boom, it turns on the some of the genes in your liver and your pancreas. Um, so these genes are being turned on and off all the time, and that only lasts for 10 minutes, and then it turns it off again. So, so turning on, what was I talking about?
You were talking about whether or not starting your 8 hour
Oh yeah,
window
8 hours.
fasting is better at
Okay.
8 a.m. versus like something like 2 p.m.
Right. So 8 a.m. Is when your cortisol peaks and everything turns on, and that's your digestive system and everything. By 4 p.m., it's pretty much all turned off. And so people are eating late at night and they're just storing all the fat. They're storing all the toxins in their liver and yeah, in their liver also, but in their fat. And so we're told, oh, don't fast because you'll take a whole bunch of fat out and all those toxins will be released all of a sudden into your body. And you know what? There's some truth to that if that's the way you've been living, like eating at night all the time. So yes, there's a difference. If you eat in the morning, then that's when your system is turned on to digest and properly detox everything. If you eat at night, you tend not to have that.
Okay. So if someone here, let's say they have insulin sensitivity or any metabolic health functions, is that going to work, the 16/8, or something more like 24 better? Like fasting for 20 hours, eating for 4 hours. That's like half the amount of time. That's like a big difference, 8 to 4 hours.
There were some interesting studies done on this. The 16/8 was better for most people because a lot of people when they had a 20 and 4 during the 4 hours they were eating so much they were actually gaining weight even though they're fasting a longer period of time because they ate more because during those 4 hours they were eating constantly as opposed in an 8 hour period of time, they ate a couple of meals, so it was just different.
So this is one type of fasting, intermittent fasting, but then we have one meal a day kind of fasting where
Yeah.
you don't have 4 hours, you have 30 minutes to eat. Now, does this help something like autophagy? Is that better to do one
Huh?
meal a day? Is it sustainable to do one meal a day?
Oh, it's absolutely sustainable. In fact, about 1/3 of the world only has enough to
Yeah,
eat one
true.
meal a day,
Mhm.
and that's what they live on, one meal a day. So it's not that it's not sustainable, and it's great. It's really good for you. It's just hard when there's so much food around.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and then eating that one meal, are you going to get enough as far as nutrients go? And so if you're really good about getting nutrients, one meal a day is great. It's called OMAD.
Mhm.
Um, but your question of autophagy, yeah, you're not quite there. And that's kind of an interesting thing. It usually takes more than one day. It's about 2 days before you actually get into autophagy. So you have to use up all the glycogen in your body in order to switch to fat burning and start autophagy.
Mhm. Okay. But if you have people who do it one meal a day, I always feel like their body's more stressed because they're worried about eating, they're hungry. Does it actually work backwards? Is there some
Um,
sort of effect?
it can if you're walking around hungry all the time, you're going, oh man, all that food, I want some of that, I want some of that. It's a stressful thing. But other people look at it in terms of freedom. And they say, I get up in the morning, I eat my breakfast, and then the rest of the day, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about food. Did I bring my lunch? Who cares? I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about what I'm going to cook for dinner tonight. It's a freedom thing where you don't have to worry about what you're eating. So it can be a stress thing, and yes, every time when you're not eating, some stress hormones are released. Cortisol is released, but the cortisol is released, and then you get the reset. And that's the thing about fasting is it resets all of those peptide hormones, and even some of the steroid hormones.
Hmm. Okay, so what about these 3-day fasts that can reboot the system? Do you,
Okay.
is this good for anybody? Can people with autoimmune conditions do this?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. 3-day fast. That's the optimal, not optimal, but it is you get the most bang for your buck in a 3-day fast. Because it takes 2 days, essentially, 1.5, 2 days, something like that, to get into autophagy and fat burning. So fat burning you can measure by measuring your ketones. There's 3 ways to measure ketones. There's a breathalyzer ketone meter, and you can get those online. There's a finger stick ketone meter. You can get that online too, or at the pharmacy. A lot of pharmacies have them. And then there's urine sticks that you pee on in the morning. I've had the blood and the urine, and I've tested them both head to head, and they're pretty good. People will tell you, oh, the urine ones are inaccurate because if you're drinking a whole bunch of water, you dilute it out, and then you don't know. Yeah, there's something to that, but I only drink when I'm thirsty, so I don't do it that way. So I've found good correlation between the blood and the urine test. So I just mostly use the urine test now. But okay, so your question to the 3-day fast. So you get to that after 2 days, then you get one day of repairing and fixing an autophagy, and clearing out everything, all the tau proteins in your brain. My grandfather had Alzheimer's disease. When I was 16, we moved into the house, our whole family. We had 5 adults taking care of one guy with Alzheimer's, and it was hard. It was really hard. And so when I was a teenager, I was like, I am not going to go into this. And that's one of the reasons I went into medicine, as I wanted to study it and look at it, is this inevitable? If I have the gene, is it inevitable? It's not. It's not. It only increases your risk by a percentage, something like 40% if it's genetic. Um, but but you can overcome that pretty easily, like just with lifestyle. And one of the things to do is fasting to clear out all those tau proteins in your brain and all the neurofibrillary tangles. Those are cleared out while your stomach is empty.
Hmm. So if someone's worried about Alzheimer's, should they do 4 days or 5 days? Or is 3 days really just like 3 days is going to do it for you?
You know what? If you did 3 days, and that's what I came to, is 3 days once a month. So I looked at all the research. You were going to ask about the fasting mimicking
Oh
diet,
yeah,
which
good thing
is
there.
five. That's 5 days. And that's actually they have a box, a product that they sell that has 5 little boxes of food in it. And each box contains one day of this is what you can eat today, and they start out at like 1,300 calories and they go end up with like 300 calories at the end. And they have little like soups, like mushroom soup and minestrone soup, packets, dehydrated soup that you put in hot water, that kind of thing. Um, and the problem with that is you're not fasting.
Mhm.
Fasting is an empty stomach. So you're putting things into your stomach all the time. And every time you put something into your stomach, especially if it tastes sweet and there's like little nut date bars and stuff like that in there too. So yeah, there are not a lot of calories. You're eating low calorie, but you're putting stuff in your stomach. And every time you do that, you make insulin. Insulin is the culprit. That's the bad guy. That's the one that stops you from using fat for energy. That's the one. In fact, this is really weird. I just found out this recently that like if you use Ozempic shots or medications to lose weight, about 45% of the weight you lose is muscle.
Mhm.
That's a lot. And then if you go, okay, I'm not going to use those, I'm just going to eat less. I'm going to eat a 500 calorie a day diet. Uh, then you lose 25% of the weight loss is muscle. Why? Because every time you eat, you're putting out insulin. Insulin blocks you from using fat for energy. So now because you ate something, even though it's a little amount, you can't use fat for energy. So what? So the body has to turn to muscle and start pulling the what's it's not trying to remember glutamine, the amino acid glutamine out of the muscle to make it into glucose so that your brain and heart and other tissues have enough glucose, sure, enough energy because you can't use fat because you're making insulin. So if you fast, you only lose 9%. You only use 9% of the energy you use is from your muscle. Why do you use any at all? Well, because you have to have glucose. There are parts of your brain that can't work without glucose. So it will always be there, and it will be made out of protein if you're not eating it. But when you're not making insulin, almost everything can use fat for energy. So you can, like, 90% of your energy can come from fat, and then only that 9% from protein. And here's the key, because fasting puts you in anabolic mode. Um, that's the repair mode. Because you're in anabolic mode, that as soon as you start eating, first thing to come back is your muscle. Whereas
Okay.
if you're taking injections, first thing to come back is your fat.
I want to make a post out of that. The first thing that comes back is your fat if you're doing Ozempic. That is so
Yeah,
dangerous.
yeah.
Um, what about, okay, so we were talking about fasting mimicking diets. What about people who have like thyroid issues? Is that something good for them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So while you're fasting, you still take thyroid pill because and it depends. Some people have had their thyroid removed, and if that's the case, if you've had surgery, you definitely have to take your thyroid. If not, then you can find out if you need the thyroid or not. If you still have a thyroid gland, and you're not sure if it's functional or not, because fasting could make it function again.
All right, next type of fasting, alternate day fasting or ADF. So this kind of focuses on weight loss. Um, does this help prevent the metabolic slowdown if you're doing it every other day?
Yes. Yeah. So the advantage of alternate day fasting is you actually get into ketosis. So you actually start burning fat because the day that you're not eating, you're only drinking water, and you're not making any insulin. And since you're not making any insulin, you get into fat burning. Whereas, like intermittent fasting, if you've been fasting for 12 or 14 or 18 hours, then you still you're not making insulin while you're doing that, but you still have glycogen, so you're still using the sugar that you've stored in your body. Whereas you can get out of that within 1 day of fasting. Usually it's more than a day, right? Alternate day fasting, it's not just 24 hour. 24-hour would be OMAD. Alternate day fasting, you're actually 1.5 to 2 days, depending on when you eat, is you're fasting during that time, and that's long enough to go into ketosis and autophagy. So yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay, I've often heard of, okay, I always don't know how to say this. So we have autophagy and then mitophagy, where you're cleaning
Mitophagy.
mitophagy. Tell me the
Yeah.
difference between those two and how does fasting impact the mitochondria and your other cells?
Okay, this is a really interesting. It's so amazing. Autophagy is auto means self, phagy is eating. So you're eating yourself. I know that sounds horrible, but it is a real thing. And so when you're not eating, when your stomach is empty, your body goes, I gotta look around. I need some protein. Where am I gonna get that? Oh, we have all this junk protein sitting around, all these neurofibrillary tangles, tau proteins, and they're not being used. I'll just use those up. Oh, we have plaques in the arteries, and we can use that for fat and takes that out. And then the body just starts using up all the junk. and so there's cells that are senescent cells, they're called. They're zombie cells. They're alive, but they're not functional. And so the immune system goes, well, you're a senescent cell. I don't like you. So it just envelops the whole thing, digests it inside the white blood cell, and then spits out the proteins for your body to use, and fats and everything else for your body to use. So you're literally eating yourself. But what are you eating? All the bad stuff, all the cancer cells, the dead cells, the tau proteins, all of the stuff that you don't want, all the junk that's been, or and fat too, right? That's been hanging around in your body. So that's autophagy. Mitophagy is actually super interesting too. This is like a new field. It's kind of like most people, most scientists don't know about this. And what happens while you're not eating and in autophagy, then the mitochondria say, well, oh, we don't have a lot of glucose around, so we're going to have to start using fat. And what they also do is the ones that aren't working very well, uh, they come together and they form one, and then they reproduce. And so they act like bacteria. Bacteria do that. They divide instead of anyway. They're in the cells and they're dividing and they're making new cells. But the first thing that happens is they melt together. What's the word? They melt together, and that allows them then to divide into two new cells, and they're more functional. So you get more mitochondria, even though it's called mitophagy, because you are eating them up. You are using them up because they come together. Um, so that's autophagy and mitophagy.
Hmm. We are having a lot of questions about whether or not you can drink anything while you're fasting. Water, is that acceptable? So
Okay.
address that for a second.
Um, so here's the thing. Water is good while you're fasting. You're not going to make insulin. So the key is, it seems like the key is don't make insulin. So, what are you going to do? Well, it turns out that herbal teas that aren't sweet or anything, and you're not putting anything in them. You're not putting any, sugar, or you're not flavoring them or anything. Then that's okay. Things like people drink broth, bone broth. Because that has protein on it, you're going to make some insulin, so that's not ideal. But black coffee, people drink coffee, and yes, it has caffeine. Yes, it stimulates the adrenals. But it turns out that it doesn't make any insulin, so it doesn't break the fast in that sense. Um, and so the way to look at it is anything. It's not just calories, really, but anything that doesn't have calories, doesn't have flavor, is good. So I had somebody that tried, which one was it? It was, I think, LMNT. And it was one of those packets uh, of of
Electrolytes.
of electrolytes, yeah. But it was flavored. And so she's making insulin because of the flavoring and the sweetness of it. So if you're going to have some electrolytes, the best thing to do is just take a pinch of sea salt and put it in water and drink it down. And that's a great way to do it instead of the flavored electrolyte drinks.
Hmm. Now, what's the best thing to do then to break a fast?
Okay. I read this book from the early 1900s, like 1910. Um, there was a Pulitzer Prize winning author named um, Sinclair Lewis. Sinclair Lewis wrote a book called The Jungle, which changed the way the meatpacking industry worked. And He got a Pulitzer Prize for that. But most people don't know he also wrote a book called The Fasting Cure. And remember, this is early 1900s, before antibiotics, before penicillin, before there were really any medications that actually did anything, because they were using things like digitalis that stop the heart or slow down the heart. So they did have some medications, but nothing like what we have today. And so he wrote a book called The Fasting Cure, and he was pretty sure he could cure just about anything, including tuberculosis,
Oh,
with by fasting. And he was doing 10 days, 14 days, 30 days, and even some did a little longer. Um, um, and then so he talks a lot about what do you eat after you haven't eaten for a long period of time. And they tried various things, and they came up with milk as the best thing because that's what babies start off with, and so that would be a good thing to start with. Not bad. It's a good thought. I personally, as I've researched it, I think it's better to have fiber. So beans, peas, lentils, fruits, vegetables, just like your first meal. It doesn't have to be like that's all you eat for a day or a week or whatever. Just like your first meal, a lot of fiber in it. And the reason for that is to grow the good bacteria in your intestines right away, so that you don't put things in there that will grow bad bacteria and you end up with diarrhea or intestinal problems from it.
metabolically gentle, we'll put
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's all prebiotics. Fiber is prebiotics to grow good
Yeah.
bacteria.
Yeah. All right. Questions about whether or not fasting. Paul asks, can fasting work with medicine, or should it be with no food and no medicine?
So, thank you for asking that, Paul. That is really important. Um, some medicines you just have to take when you're fasting. So, if you're on things like gabapentin or blood pressure no, well, we'll talk about blood pressure medication. Something that's for depression, for example, or anxiety, or those kinds of things. You may need to continue those. You probably should continue those while you're fasting. So you just drink them with water, and that's okay. But things like blood pressure medication, you have to be careful because your blood pressure is going to get low. While you're fasting, the electrolytes change in your body and your pressure changes in your body, and your pressure is going to drop down. And if you have medication, it could drop down too far, and you end up with low blood pressure, and that can cause you to pass out. And so that's a thing. So be careful of that. Um, and then if you're on any blood sugar medication, Metformin, or especially any of um, the um, the ones that increase insulin, anything that increases insulin, you have to be really careful of, because while you're fasting, your blood sugar is going to get low. And then if you're on a medication, it's going to drop too low. So those are the things to be careful of. So you might talk to your doctor about, hey, I'm fasting. Should I take this? Should I take that? And to be specific.
All right. Then another question is Debbie asks, and do you exercise during the fast? I guess maybe it depends on how long the fast is, too.
Excellent question. Yes, you exercise. Okay, remember what I said about the body has to have sugar, and when you're not eating, the sugar has to come from, well, first of all, glycogen, which is stored sugar in your liver and in your muscles. But uh, when you run out of glycogen, which takes about a day or so, 2 days, then you start using protein, and the body's going to take out protein that's not being used. So if you're using your muscles, you're going to keep the muscles that you use, and then it's going to take proteins out of whatever's not being used. So you want to exercise while you're fasting. And there's other reasons for that too. You go into anabolic mode, which is repair mode, which is building mode, and that's the thing that you want to build. So that's where you start getting that mitophagy, is because you're using the muscles, and then the mitochondria, oh, we need more energy for this. And then they start reproducing dividing, reproducing, so that there's more energy for your muscles. So for two reasons, those two reasons, it's a good idea to exercise while you're fasting.
Can you take I think I've heard supplements. This is going to the mitophagy that can you take supplements to help mitophagy?
I don't know specifically.
I was talking to someone who was saying that they were following a biohacker and they were selling supplements to do mitophagy. And I was like, I thought that's something your body did by yourself once you're fasting. So I'll have to look
Well,
it up.
it could be like things like PQQ, CoQ10 that cause division of mitochondria. Anyway, you can increase the number of mitochondria by taking these things. So it's possible. There are a lot of mitochondrial supplements now, and most of them contain things like L-carnitine, PQQ, which is pyrroline, quinoline, quinone. That's why everybody says PQQ. No one can pronounce it. Um, and then CoQ10 would be another one. Magnesium, ribose would be another one. So those are the things that cause the mitochondria to divide and increase.
All right. Stephen asks, I usually get a headache when trying to fast, so then I just eat again. Is there a better solution? I think he wants to get rid of his headaches.
Yeah. Well, the headache comes from hypoglycemia as a rule, and your blood sugar starts dropping down, and you can trigger a headache just from that. So what you want to do is, um, I don't know, probably the best thing. What I do, I mean, I get headaches too. I used to, but not anymore when I fast. Um, you kind of have to push through the the first few days of fasting. Do it several times, like once a month, like 3 days for once a month. And I pick weekends. I don't want to go to work when I'm fasting, although yesterday I did. The and just understand that you're going to be okay, maybe disabled for part of a day or something like that. Yeah, you may get headache when your blood sugar drops down until you start making ketones, until you start use up all the glycogen and your insulin drops down. And that's the key is it's just the insulin's got to drop down. And if you have high insulin and you're not eating, then your blood sugar's going to get low and you're gonna feel it. I've had times when I've been fasting and I was at work at a nursing home and had to lay down on the floor of the nursing home. I just like, I gotta get down now and just like drop and lay down because I started getting dizzy. And I know I don't want to pass out because I've had patients who have gotten dizzy, and one of them fell and broke her tooth
Oh,
out. Another one fell on the edge of a piano and hit his forehead. Had to go get stitches in the ER and listen to the doctor tell
oh
him how
no.
stupid it was to fast. Um, he continued. That was after 15 days of fasting, though, that he fell, and he got dizzy. So these things do happen. There's electrolyte changes that are happening and blood sugar changes, and so you're going to get hypotension and hypoglycemia, and so you have to understand that that's going to happen. And you know what? There's good evidence and good research to show that that's good for you.
Mm.
What do they say? No pain, no gain.
I imagine as you practice fasting more often, like you said, maybe less headaches,
Oh
your
yeah,
insulin's going to
that'll
level
absolutely stop.
easier. So
Yeah.
it's kind of beginner's luck to have a headache or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So Edgar asks, how often should I fast? This is how he fasts. I eat breakfast between 4:30 a.m. and 4 to 4:30 a.m. I think, and I skip lunch. And when I get home from work in the evening, I eat dinner. Is that good enough? I found fasting is hard.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You're fasting from, 4:30. Uh, it's probably what 12 hours or more in there, and that's intermittent fasting, and that's good. And it's good to have an empty stomach between meals because that prevents acid reflux and gastritis and all of the problems associated with the digestive enzyme problems and all that. So eating a meal and making sure you have at least 5 hours and then eating another meal. So if you're going 12 hours between breakfast and dinner and then another 12 hours eating twice a day, that's good. It's very good for you. Every time you have an empty stomach, it's good for you. So you can't go wrong doing that. What would be really interesting is if you measure your ketone levels and find out if you're in ketosis at any time. And that means you've used up the glycogen and you're um, and you're in autophagy.
All right, Elaine, all right. So, all right. Elaine raised a hand, but I think she put it down. So questions go in the Q&A, Elaine. Anonymous, who's new, welcome. She's a friend, or he's a friend of Sib from Tampa. Hello. Asks this question. Is a straight 72-hour fast more beneficial than a 24 on, 24 off fast over 6 days, which is 146 hours? Wayne, this is from Wayne.
Okay. So, from my point of view, from the research I've done, the best way I can answer that is to say that probably the 72-hour fast is better. The reason is every time you eat, you're going to replete your supply of glycogen. And then you end up like it's kind of like starting over each time when you have like one day on, one day off kind of thing. Um, and so I think it's better, and Dr. Walter Longo's research kind of indicates this, that it's better to have a continuous fast, like a 72-hour fast.
Okay. Let's look. There was another fasting question. See if I can find it. Uh, all right, let's just go with Randy. Hi, Dr. Saunders. I'm confused. My A1C was 14.9, now 6.9. Great. Was taking Cinechroma, then got a cancer diagnosis. Now I drink unsweetened green tea with CBD in it, and my sugar runs 75 to 140 unless I'm in pain. Also, my cancer cells seem to be shriveling up. Any ideas?
Um, well, 75 to 140 is a good blood sugar. Dropping the hemoglobin A1C from 14 to 6, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, that's still prediabetes. So the confusion is that there's a wide variation because 75 is definitely a normal blood sugar. 140 is relatively highest if that's a fasting blood sugar. Even after eating, though, you don't expect it to go up to 140. 120 is good. So it may be that you still have some insulin resistance, and awesome on shrinking that cancer. That's a good idea.
Really good. Let's see. Does blood thinner medicine have calories that would affect fasting?
No, no, it doesn't have calories. It does affect the metabolism to some extent, but that even that shouldn't affect fasting.
Okay. How does fasting affect someone with diminished kidney function?
Okay, good question. Good question. Okay, kidneys. Um, uh, uh, okay, let's start with liver. Liver. When you can take out half your liver and what's left there will regrow into a new liver and you'll have a full liver. So you can mess with your liver all you want and it's going to come back to life and it's wonderful. Kidneys, no such luck. You lose your kidney function, you've lost kidney function. So the idea of kidney function coming back, you can get like some back, but it's not like you're getting it back. It's like it's more efficient and more functional with what you have, and you're not getting new glomeruli. At least that's what the current research seems to indicate. So If how does fasting affect the kidneys? It depends on why there's low kidney function. If you have diabetes, then fasting can just bring it back to life because it could turn it on when you're fasting. If you have toxic kidney problems, then that would be different. If you have autoimmune kidney problems, that would be different. So it depends on why. But even then, an autoimmune diet would be good. And while you're fasting, you give the kidneys a rest. And so it can help them to improve their function.
What happens in the gut when you're fasting? You said start with fiber because that'll give you prebiotics. So is it just flushing, or what else happens in the gut when you're fasting? If we're talking about the liver and the kidney, what happens?
Okay, the gut. Your stomach has to deal with acid all the time. Every time you eat, you make acid. And we're not talking a little bit of acid. We're talking about pH of 1 point something, which is really acidic. And we're denaturing proteins and digesting things. You know what? We're breaking everything apart with this super acidic environment in the stomach. Well, what do you think happens to your stomach with all that acid? The lining of the stomach gets irritated. You can get ulcers. The acid can create problems. So when you're fasting, when the stomach is empty, there's nothing in it. Guess what happens? All the repair processes happen. It fixes everything. It resets your stomach's ability to make acid. It resets your stomach's ability to make enzymes. It resets your stomach's ability to make the mucus that protects the lining of your stomach from that acid so that you have a good protection when you do eat. Okay, so that's just the stomach. Now, what about the intestines? The intestines is one cell layer thick. One layer. That's all you get. One cell. Okay, think about this. This is cells here. So we're talking like super thick layers. The intestines, one. So when you have one cell layer and one goes missing, there's a hole there. And those are real holes and it causes leaky gut. And so when you're fasting, what happens? All that gets repaired. All those cells, they divide and they come together. Why does it happen in the first place? Well, lectins, toxins from plants are one reason. Enzymes, you got to think these enzymes are digesting things, including cells like meat and all of that we're made of. And so these enzymes are also breaking down the lining of your intestines. And so this is making holes in the lining of your intestines and causing leaky gut. So while you're fasting, all of that gets repaired and everything starts working well. And then here's the kicker, as you almost alluded to this, of what happens to the bacteria in your large bowel is that all the bad bacteria, they don't have any energy, they die off. They die. But your cells in your large intestine make types of sugar, like fucose, that keep the good bacteria alive. So your cells are creating an environment for the good cells to stay and the bad cells to get wiped out. And so while you're fasting, all of that happens in your intestines.
Mm, that's really nice. Um, part of me is like, we should do every body part and what happens when we're fasting, but that maybe that's another another day. But Julie asks, this is a good one we haven't dealt with. I'm at my ideal weight thanks to your diabetes reversal program. Yay.
Yay!
Great percentage of lean mass. If I do a 3-day fast for health purpose, will I lose too much weight or muscle mass?
No, good question. Excellent question. So, anybody can do a 3-day fast and you're not going to lose muscle mass. You're not going to lose weight significantly. Of course, you're going to lose weight, but most of that is water. Because and that's the reason. I'm glad she brought this up because that's the reason for doing a 3-day as opposed to 5-day or 7-day or whatever, is you don't want to lose weight. You don't want to get rid of. You don't have any excess fat to get rid of. So that 3 days, at the first 2 days essentially, you're using up glycogen, so you're not using protein and you're not burning very much fat either. But during those 2 days, your insulin drops down to zero, and then the last day you're burning fat. So you go into ketosis and autophagy, where your body starts cleansing everything out. And so, and that's prior to using up your proteins. So, Dr. Valter Longo did research on this. What happens to people who are their perfect body weight and they fast for 3 days? Well, what happens is they lose weight. And what's really cool is when they gain it back, the first thing to come back is the protein. That's their muscles and the rebuilding of repairing all the connective tissues, muscles, and all that. And then the next thing to come back is fat. Why? Because you've set up the body to do that because the insulin level is low. So you're using fat. And so when you eat, all the protein is getting stored and not fat. So it's actually a very good thing for somebody at their perfect body weight to do a 3-day fast.
Okay, she just said, put in, what if I'm already in ketosis before a 3-day fast?
Oh, then you don't have any glycogen stored. Then you're using fat for energy. Gosh, I
Does,
don't have an answer to that.
does she need to fast then if she's already in ketosis?
I don't know. You know, the purpose for the ketogenic diet was originally to trick the body into thinking you're fasting because you don't have any insulin. And if you're burning fat, if you're in ketosis, you probably don't have any insulin. Um, Good question. I don't have any. I don't have any research. I don't know. That's the answer.
All right, Julia. Well, you'll have to come back another time.
I'm,
I'm sure
I'm
he'll
gonna
have an answer in a couple of weeks
I'm gonna
for
look it
that.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anonymous says, it was my understanding in a former episode that Kirkland olive oil brand was a good oil, but I got an email stating that it is not the case anymore and that plastic bottles cause the oil to become rancid. Is this a true fact? We still
Okay, so olive oil is an omega-9 oil. It has very little omega-6 and very little omega-3 that go rancid. Omega-9 isn't something that's easily goes rancid, so that's why you can use olive oil for cooking, for example. You can heat it up, and it's just not something that goes rancid. So. I don't know if that's hype, but yes, it is a plastic bottle, and I don't know if the oxidation. See, the rancidity is oxidation, right? So, does oxygen get into the bottle through the plastic bottle? I don't know enough about that either. I can't say.
I would say that it's better to have olive oil that's from one country versus olive oil that comes from a lot of different countries. If you look at the brand and it'll say it's from Greece and Italy, it's their throwaway olives that they're giving away. Those could be bad when they're all put together. So if you use a single origin, it's probably a pure oil. I've heard about glass bottles, but it seems like everybody's selling them in dark plastic bottles, and that seems to be okay. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I should think so. Without specifically knowing any research on that.
okay. Kath- Catherine asks, what is the best way to stop using high blood pressure medication?
The best way is to work with your doctor and say, I would like to get off this high blood pressure medication. How can I do that? And then find out why your blood pressure is high. So the first thing you do is you start testing and you say, is this a kidney problem that's causing it to go up? Is it diabetes? If you have high insulin and insulin resistance, that causes the blood pressure to go up. Is it because there's um, uh, um, there's a small vessel disease in the brain that's causing it to go up? Is it because of a liver problem, a heart problem? So look at all the different possible reasons why the blood pressure can go up and find out what it is and fix that. And once you fix the reason, the underlying reason, then you won't need the medication anymore. It'll just be superfluous.
And we do have the high blood pressure solution kit, which is available on our website that you can use to help guide you through that process. So I will link that in a second. Um, let's see. John Miller says, John Miller from Petersburg, Illinois, I take metformin and glipizide and was recently prescribed Januvia. Do these meds play well together?
Well, in a sense, yes. So metformin tells the body to use fat instead of sugar. It works on AMPK. Um, and then the sulfonylurea, glipizide, causes the pancreas to put out extra insulin. And then the Januvia um, um, uh, makes you urinate out extra blood sugar. So, in a sense, yes. Um, but, I would look at it as that's not a solution to the problem because the solution is really to reverse the process of what's causing the diabetes in the first place. And these don't address that. They do deal with one symptom, and that is blood sugar, but they don't deal with the problem of insulin resistance. In fact, the especially the glipizide will cause more insulin resistance in the long run. So these aren't good long-term medications. They're good for short-term, temporary use, but not for lifetime long-term use. You're muted.
Muted. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was just putting my link and about to put the code for a discount. This coupon code can be used on anything for on our site for 25% off, even our subscriptions. And we're having amazing sale on Synachroma and turmeric on our website. So stock up if you're interested at the moment. All right. Let's see. Uh, what is omega DPA?
Um, okay. So DPA is an omega-3 fatty acid, long chain fatty acid that um, is necessary for the function of like your brain, for example. And so it's a good supplement. Wait, DPA. Yeah, DPA
Okay.
and DHA and EPA. And
This is
then no, DPA is different.
okay.
Let's see.
While he's looking that up, just a moment before we say goodbye to Dr. Saunders, and maybe one more question. But next week, we will not have a webinar. We will have people traveling. So Dr. Saunders will not be available. This is episode, I believe, 321. If you're coming late or you're looking for it on YouTube later.
Okay, so DPA is docosapentanoic acid, pentaenoic acid, and that's a long chain omega-3 fatty acid. And it's in between. Oh, yeah, it's the one in between the EPA and the DHA. The DPA is in between. Yeah, and if you were to supplement DPA, then you would get DHA from that. Your body would make it. It's kind of automatic, made into DHA.
All right. And then last question, are there side effects of using ivermectin in cancer treatments?
Um, My experience is no, there's not a lot of research on it, but look at the big picture of ivermectin. It's over the counter in most places in the world. It's used on a weekly to daily basis for people who live in areas where they have parasitic infections. And so billions and billions of doses, they've never had toxicity from a single not one single toxic dose or toxicity from ivermectin. So, considering that, then I've had patients with cancer, and I tell them to use ivermectin, and I usually add in fenbendazole. Um, and we've had good results with it. So even if they're doing other therapies, then they can still add in ivermectin.
All right, there you go. I'm trying to put in our website right here if you don't know it, and my paste is not working. It's bartonsupplements.com if you'd like to go there to see a view of all of our supplements. So thank you, Dr. Saunders.
You're
Great
welcome.
webinar on fasting.
See
Good
you in a couple
beneficial.
weeks.
All right, bye. All right, if you guys are interested, I'll finish putting that link. I also have a ton of Home Cures at Work articles written from Dr. Saunders about fasting that kind of sums it up. So give me a second. I'm going to put those in the chat. He's written about fasting. I would consider him an expert in fasting. So I'm going to put those in the chat here. There you go. You can read those, grab those, copy those so you can get a hold of them later. Any last questions I can help you with? Or email us at support@Barton Publishing or bartonnutrition.com. I can offer and answer your emails there, so I'd love to hear from you. And then we'll call this a wrap. And again, no webinar next week. Dr. Saunders will be traveling, will not have internet access, so into remote parts of the world. But thank you for joining, everybody. We hope to see you in 2 weeks. Come back. Bye all.